So today is a joyous day. We have the launch of one of the most anticipated games of the last few years. Tons of people are talking about it. Millions are playing it. And that game's Black Myth Wukong. Instead of playing that today, I'm playing Concord. In fact, I actually already played it, and that's what we're gonna talk about. As always, if you appreciate me playing these games for your sick amusement, please like the video and subscribe to see more so that I know that you like seeing me miserable playing these games, which are almost certainly going to die, and also wasting a lot of money on it, which we're going to talk about here in just a second. But having said that, a little backstory with Concord. This is a game from Firewalk Studios being published by PlayStation, and it's technically speaking a first-party PlayStation Studios title. PlayStation actually went out and bought Firework Studios before this game was even announced. They thought it had that much potential, and according to some sources, they may have paid somewhere in the realm of $200 to $300 million when all was said and done for this game. Now, I'm not a video game scientist. I don't know how they would have justified spending that much money. And honestly, even if it's less, even if it's only like 100 million or 50 million, still, that is a crazy amount of money to pay for a game which, when announced, pretty much everybody agreed it was unremarkable. I don't know if you watched the reveal of this game. It was the first thing that they showed off at their PlayStation showcase earlier this year. And prior to that, it had gotten a revealed trailer where they showed like a hamburger and some other cinematic stuff, but not a whole lot. But when they showed it off earlier this year in much more detail, they had a cinematic trailer showing the cast of characters that actually got people pretty excited and stoked. And then right as the trailer ended and people were excited for this new Guardians of the Galaxy inspired spin-off new PlayStation IP, they led in with this.
Concord is a 5v5 first-person shooter.
And everybody's reaction was pretty much exactly what you would expect. People were like, oh, I was interested. And pretty much immediately people checked out. However, some people who are addicted to misery, such as myself, decided to continue following this game and see what it had to offer. A number of weeks ago, they did a series of closed beta tests, and these beta tests were initially just for people who had the deluxe version pre-ordered, which was the closed beta test. And then they did an open beta test where you could play the game without having to pay anything for it. And that's significant because yes, this game is something you have to pay for. It is a 5v5 hero shooter that costs $40. And if you want access to early access, or what they call advanced access or whatever, you have to pay for the $60 version. Otherwise, it's just a flat $40. And during that open beta test, when the game was actually free, they peaked at just under 2,400 players. And I don't have to tell you probably that when your game is free and you can't break 2,400 players, that's not great. Like, granted, this is just on Steam. These are just Steam numbers, but this is a game that is a first-person shooter. This is allegedly going to be relatively competitive, and those types of games really depend on their PC audiences. And so to have such weak performance on PC when the game is free is not really confidence inspiring when you're then going to turn around and charge $40 for it after the fact. Because the conclusion, which I think is fair to make, is that when you offered the game for free, you got one number, and after you start charging for the game, this number will be lower because some of the people that tried it, some of those 2,400 peak concurrent players, will not pay for the game and tried it, but just decided it wasn't for them, which is why the number fell off quite sharply, and they ended up at an average of around 1,100 people when all was said and done, floating down into like the sub 1,000 range. And again, I'm not a video game scientist or whatever you'd call it, but I just don't know how you could possibly have a live service first-person hero shooter that is successful with 3-digit, barely 4-digit player numbers on PC. That just doesn't work. But that brings us to today. And today is the launch of Advanced Access. So if you are one of the people that it happens to be excited for the game, then you could pay for the $60 version of the game and play it early. And the rest of the world is going to get access to the game for $40 on the 23rd. So a couple of days from when you are seeing this video go up live. And I tried it. I tried it on stream and I had some problems. Unfortunately. First things first, the PC version of the game on Steam, I just couldn't get working at all. It didn't unlock for me despite owning the deluxe edition. I just couldn't get it to work. I couldn't download it, couldn't access it at all. And so I basically put in a request for a refund from Steam since I can't play the game that I purchased for $60. Little update, they did approve that and I have gotten my money back, which is good to see because when I played the beta for all those hours, it was technically a different application. So they were willing to refund me my money because we're having technical issues with this. Other people, however, I have seen on Twitch were able to get into the Steam version and play it, although there's just some weirdness going on with the Steam app, like trying to track player numbers and stuff. It's just not working right now, and they only have 13 total reviews. There's just something going on with the Steam version of the game. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just glitching out. The whole thing's weird. But the point is, I couldn't play the game on PC. So, because I'm an irresponsible person with my money and a YouTuber, a dangerous mix, I decided to buy the game in addition on PlayStation to try the launch version for myself. I played it on stream after we watched Gamescom opening night live with the one and only Jeff Keighley, and the high I was experiencing after watching the reveal of the next Mafia game, which is something I'm very, very excited for. That high very quickly wore off as I booted in because Concord at launch has a couple of problems, but they have made some improvements, which I'll give them credit for. For one, matchmaking times were actually better than during the open beta that I played all those weeks ago. Matchmaking times were anywhere from 40 seconds to a few minutes, and I didn't ever have anything time out, which is an improvement. During the betas, when the game was free, I actually had problems finding matches within just an hour of starting to play, and I even had some cases of matchmaking time out after 10 minutes since they couldn't find anybody to pair me with in all that time. Granted, I was playing this on stream within just a few hours of the game going live, so in the next couple of days that may drop because I have a feeling a lot of the people who are interested in Concord, if they were willing to pony up $40, they probably are willing to pony up 60. So I'm guessing the majority of players were in this initial batch of people, and that might change as the next few days pass and the game fully opens up to everybody for that $40 price point. But while matchmaking times were improved, I still think it's important to note that these are far from ideal matchmaking times you'd hope to see for a game that's launching to allegedly an excited fan base. I also ran into a couple of bugs and weird behaviors within the app, most notably an issue where if you try to cancel matchmaking to back out of matchmaking for one mode in favor of loading into a different mode, maybe you're matchmaking for 4 or 5 minutes and you're not finding a match, so you try to cancel it to load into another more popular mode to find a match faster, the game just locks up. And bear in mind, this is on the PlayStation 5. This is the first-party port of a first-party game. And if you try to cancel matchmaking, the game just locks up completely. You can't do anything. And when we ran into this on stream, I had to fully close the app and relaunch it with the starter vignette, story, cutscene, whatever playing again. And then I was able to matchmake. But it is a weird problem that I encountered, and so I figured I would mention it here. But like I said, they have made some improvements as well. They have training modes available now, and they have some smaller modes as well, where you can do things like running through basic obstacle courses. These secondary modes with the little obstacle courses, they're really, really an afterthought and not particularly interesting to me or to anybody else. I don't know whether or not this is going to find an audience, but the characters move so slowly if you're playing a tank, and then assault characters often don't have as much mobility as you would have expected. And there's only a few characters that really can zip around the map easily, and I just don't know if there's enough here to really justify this being a dedicated mode, but maybe people are going to eat this up. I really don't know. When you're actually in a game and playing it, there are also some improvements that they've added, such as a penalty for leaving matches early. This may sound like a really obvious feature to have, but during those betas I talked about earlier, they didn't have any system of punishment or prevention for this type of behavior. So people would load into a match, and if they started to get blown out and it's just, oh, well, we're going to lose, they would just leave the match, leaving their party down a player, down 2 players, 3 players, and there was no recourse. People would just do it, and you were screwed. You're going to lose. And if you didn't want to screw over your other teammates, you'd be left playing with one other person against 5 people. And it's just not very fun at all. But they have since added a penalty system for leaving matches early. And I did test this and I felt like a real a-hole while doing it. But I loaded into matches, and after matchmaking for a few minutes, we started played for a few minutes. And once I felt like the game was pretty well decided, I pulled out of the match and they gave me a warning, and that clears away once I accept that I've received a warning, and then I'm free to matchmake again. And I actually tried this twice. I left 2 matches in a row and it gave me 2 warnings in a row, but I imagine third time's the charm, and then they're going to give you that 5-minute penalty where you just have to sit out of a match for leaving early. Honestly, it's better than nothing. I think maybe this can actually prevent people from leaving. I think 2 warnings is probably too generous. I just do 1 warning or no warnings for pulling out of matches, and just give them a penalty regardless. But maybe they have to do it this way because they can't really afford to give up any players for matchmaking because player counts are lower, so who knows. But having said that, I played a few matches and then I played a few more off stream, and frankly my takeaway is the same as it was after the betas. I think this is a competently made shooter. I think the developers clearly knew what they were doing mechanically, but I think other design choices, such as the very concept of a 5v5 hero shooter you're going to charge $40 with, is just so asinine in the modern marketplace. It's frankly baffling, especially when it's going head to head with something like Marvel Rivals, which is a free to play game with the whole roster available and with tons of other quality of life improvements, match replays and stuff like that. Concord just feels extremely shallow and hollow all at the same time. And I think even if it were free to play, it would struggle to find an audience. And the fact that they're charging $40 for it or $60 for the deluxe, I think they're just setting it up to die. It really seems like either Sony is intentionally trying to just get this thing out of their own way, and then they're just going to start over with something else, or maybe they're just hoping and praying that they're able to figure out something with regards to success. Like maybe they're hoping this just blows up like Helldivers 2 somehow, but I just don't frankly see that happening. And it's too bad because clearly the devs know what they're doing. They're talented guys and gals. They know how to make solid and tight movement and shooting and stuff, but a 5v5 hero shooter in 2024 is just not that interesting. And also charging $40 for it is crazy. Like it's just ridiculous. And I think other things like the character designs being pretty laughable and cringy is probably the best word for it. It just seems tailor-made to fail, and it's too bad because this will represent probably $200 to $300 million of wasted money that could have gone towards another project that had a lot more potential behind it. And I feel like any gamer could have probably looked at this. Anybody really in tune with the broader gaming zeitgeist could have looked at this and been like, this ain't gonna do well, guys. Like this this isn't gonna go well. And I feel baffled and amazed that somebody like Jim Ryan would have greenlit this and spent so much money on it, but that's just where we are. It's a lot of executives that are greenlighting live service games that nobody's really interested in the hope that it will somehow make money. And when you're like pillar of decision making is not, well, we have these numbers, we have these stats, we have this research, we have these people saying this game has been reviewed by independent reviewers at this level, that's why we think it's successful. But rather, instead of all that, they're going, yes, our pillar of decision making is we hope people like it and spend lots of money. Like that really is the extent of their preparation and of their justification. That's all they really were going on with Concord. All the feedback was negative. People are like, this really doesn't seem worth the money. And even if it were free, it just doesn't seem that remarkable. So I really don't know what you're doing. And they're like, yes, but we have faith. We have faith it's going to work out. It's just asinine and stupid. And I think games like Concord are probably why PlayStation leadership has seen such a shakeup in the recent months. And that's because I think the CFO that came in did a full comprehensive review of PlayStation. He came in and was like, okay, this isn't working. Margins are down at 6%. They should be at 20 to 25% this point in the generation. You guys are hemorrhaging money in all of these live service projects that are going nowhere. So we're going to just cut the fat. We're going to figure it out, get the games that are prepped out the door, and we're going to cancel other stuff like the Last of Us Online project. We're going to move forward and figure out what the hell we do to save this sinking ship. It's not even really sinking. It's just like, you know what? It's like PlayStation was racing Xbox and Nintendo and everything, and they're way ahead of it, all the competition. And then Jim Ryan comes along and he decides to just take down the sales And then he's like, yeah, we're going to shove all the sails into the sea and catch fish because we can sell the fish for money. And everybody's around him like, there aren't fish out here in the middle of the ocean. Like, we got to go by a reef or something. And he's like, no, you just have to have hope and faith that there are fish. He's just like straight up Ahab looking for a whale. And then the CFO of Sony comes in and is like, what the hell are you doing? No, like they throw Jim Ryan off the ship and then they put the sails back up and they start heading forward again. And unfortunately, we wasted like 4 years of the PS5 generation with nothing but remasters and remakes and stuff. And then other sequels that were in the works prior to Jim Ryan taking over. But maybe now we're back on the right course. One can only hope. Oh, see, hope. We've come full circle. But to wrap all of this up with Concord, I just really don't have much to say at this point. And I think that that's true of a lot of other people trying to talk about this game. It's just exactly what it appears to be and nothing more. And that's just frankly not enough to find success in this market with so much competition, and with that competition being free to play. I just don't see a world in which this magically finds success. Maybe it does. Maybe this will be one of the big surprise hits of the year and it'll just blow us all away. But I think we all know, and so does PlayStation, that this probably doesn't end that way. I think they're probably using this as a tax write-off for the rest of this year, and they're just going to have Firewalk Studios work on something else after this shuts down, probably early in the spring, because they've committed to a couple of updates this fall and then first thing in January. So after that, I think they probably move on from it. Maybe they put it on PlayStation Plus to make it quote unquote free to play at that point, but I still don't think that really saves it. But let me know, are you going to be playing Concord, or are you going to go play Black Myth Wukong and other games that are, what's the word? It's that word Jim Ryan never can remember. Oh, fun. Yeah, fun games. Are you going to go do that? Yeah. Let me know in the comments section. I will be looking at that. Again, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like it. Make sure to subscribe. I appreciate the gosh darn heck out of every single one of you for watching and making my dreams a reality every single day. Until next time, my friends, much love. I'll see you in the next one. Hugs and kisses. Bye-bye.